think all of us in this kind of communication and even sustainability role have an element of being a truth teller that's important. We may think we know what is out there, but when you get the data that shows otherwise, you kind of have to put your emotions aside and kind of lean into it. So we do a lot of consumer insights and research. For those of you that may not know, Yum Brands may not be the most commonly heard thing that's out there. More common is Taco Bell or KFC or Pizza Hut. We have 59,000 restaurants globally. And over the last 2 years, I think we've opened about a restaurant every 90 minutes. So we think a lot about growth, scale, and complexity on what our footprint is around the world. A lot of research around what to talk about and what kind of language to use to describe it. How do we make it be in simple and approachable terms? I think the previous terms used kind of meet them where they are. And I think that we spend a lot of time thinking through how we do those things in terms of both kind of the way our restaurants present themselves and the new ones that are built and how do they embed kind of attributes that resonate with consumers. And then on our food and the work we do around the sustainability elements of it, how do we not use words? I think I mentioned carbon and climate. Yes, very important, very emotional issue, but nobody wants to hear about that when they think of their food. They want to hear that it's natural, sustainable, in our minds, craveable and distinctive. Like, how do we do things that fit the language that resonate a little easier than some of the terms that can be a little technical in this space? Is what are the opponents using in terms of the language? What do you want to use in terms of the language? And just understanding how to then, kind of work through those inherent conflicts. One of the more legendary ones that I think of as a historical, just to me, it was a turning point and how I thought about language was the conversation and research, really great scientific research around poultry and egg laying and kind of cage-free housing or not, and other sorts of systems that were out there. So they went on this kind of crate-free, kind of a cage-free egg language kind of mentality. And I think the industry recognized up front that that may not be best for the bird, did a lot of great research, paired with the activists to try to see what's the science say around what provides the best health and welfare for poultry in that situation. And it was kind of a complex name that was a tag to the system. And unfortunately, I think that led to its demise. It was enriched colony housing, but that simplicity of language of kind of cage-free eggs versus enriched colony housing, it didn't win, right? The language won over the science. And I just think there's a lesson there of being thoughtful. And what I always encourage everybody to do is put your research around language and communications further up in your process as you do some of these campaigns and activities. Go to the market earlier than you think you need to, understand the alternatives earlier than what you need to, so that it's not a last minute thing of like, oh, how do we describe this now? You kind of need to think through up front, what are the ways we want to try and position our own narrative, but there's this kind of language that we got to work through, and how we that care about the industry and work in food production meet those demands of affordable, safe supply, appropriate level for resourcing and earnings for the farmer, affordability for the consumer, meeting all those things together. It's going to take a lot of innovation and conversations to get there, but how we describe it will 100% matter in terms of its success. You have to do things that resonate with kind of the audience, and a simplicity and approachability, I think, that help tell that story. Make sure you're minimizing kind of the say-do gap. They don't want to see you say something and have nothing that backs it up on accent what you're doing. So it's, I think, what you say and how your actions and what you're doing have to match in this day of social media and influencer things that are out there. If that gap is large, they'll exploit that in a minute. So I think minimizing this can't just be a communications exercise. It's got to be an exercise in kind of how you're engaging with your suppliers, how you're doing things as well.